I've witnessed a crime, and I need to be protected by the government now. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Natalie Megan, and this is Weirdo Book Club. And I have a microphone now, so I hope you're ready for that. I'm so glad you've decided to return. We've had quite a time here on this channel. I know. I have taken yet another ill-advised turn down the avenue of dark romance. Sharp right, straight to hell. The point of this is to answer the ever-plaguing question, do I even like dark romance? I do. I believe that somewhere out there in the dark bowels of this genre, there is a book with me all over it, hopefully not literally. And that's how I got here today, talking to you and doing yet another deep dive, this time on a dark hockey romance. Today we will be discussing The Pucking Wrong Number by C.R. Jane. That title really bothers me, but it's the least of our worries, I guarantee. Let's get the disclaimers out of the way. The first one is always the same. This review will contain spoilers, opinions, and general shit-talking. If you plan to read this book, or you've never heard of this book and now you want to read it and don't want me to spoil it, go ahead and scoot. If you're a person that doesn't know how to behave when a stranger on the internet disagrees with your opinions, this review is also not for you. Go ahead and excuse yourself. No hard feelings from me. This review is also not for the author. Just have to say it. Number 2, I left this disclaimer out of my last review, The Never King. If you haven't watched that, go ahead and do that because it was a really good time. But I wanted to address the dark romance people in general again and tell you that I'm not coming for your genre. I promise you that I'm not. It might feel that I am. It might feel personal. I promise you that it's not. I'm coming for the bad books in the genre because I deserve better. You deserve better. We deserve better. It's not personal. I'm not coming for you. You're allowed to like what you want to like and read what you want to read as long as you're not harming anyone else. But I did want to say it again just in case. Plus, remember, who gives a shit what I think? No one. You can ask any member of my family, okay? No one listens to me. Speaking of family, this isn't a disclaimer, but it is a little star. I have been hanging out with my uncle for the last 36 hours. So if my voice is a little rattly or there's an extra twang in my accent, that is why. We went to Nashville and saw Kiss perform at the Bridgestone Arena for their End of the Road tour. This is the second time we've seen the End of the Road tour. I'm not going to get into it. It was really fun. Actually, I got a fist bump from Gene Simmons. It was pretty cool, actually. We're not here to talk about that. I'm stalling. Can you tell? Yeah. The Pucking Wrong Number is a 390-page behemoth dark hockey romance first published in May 2023. Before you ask, because I was curious about this too, do y'all remember the whole hockey book talker blow up that we had a couple of months ago? I was curious if C.R. Jane was like, ooh, let me hitch my wagon to this shit show star and see where it takes me. But no. That blow up actually happened a couple months after this book was published. Talk about trend predicting. Anyway, this is book 1 in a still in the works series. Book 2 came out in September. It's called The Pucking Wrong Guy. And the third installment, The Pucking Wrong Date, comes out January 2024, my birth month. The gifts just keep on giving. I highly doubt that I'll read those, but if you weirdos want to go financially bully me into doing it, the first one you get for free and you're welcome. I must be compensated onward. So the book has dual POVs, I guess. I'm very frustrated with how the author chose to do this, but we'll get to that later. Our first POV belongs to our plucky little underdog, Monroe. She is 19. She just moved to Dallas a year before. She got her GED. She's in community college. She has 2 jobs, and she lives in this little shitty, dingy apartment, but she's doing what she can with what she has, and we respect that. Second POV belongs to our love interest, main male character, and hockey superstar, Lincoln Daniels. So as the title suggests, all of this starts with a text to the wrong number. The pucking wrong number, excuse me. Lincoln accidentally sends Monroe a text meant for someone else, and he becomes obsessed with her hereafter, which wouldn't be such a problem if he wasn't so unhinged. As all of that would suggest, there's a lot of texting in this book, and I usually really love that. I love an epistolary style, especially with a love story. It just feels a little bit more intimate, like you're getting a peek behind the veil at how their relationship was built in a really natural way. I didn't love this. I didn't love this. It's the same kind of weirdness that I mentioned about the chapters and how the POVs are split. There was just a lot of editing that needed to be done in this book that wasn't. These seem like small problems now that I've finished the whole book, but whatever, here we go. Y'all excited for the synopsis? I know you are. One text to the wrong number, mine, and everything changed. He won't tell me his last name, and maybe that should throw up 1,000 red flags, but when I'm all alone in a new city and struggling to make ends meet, his texts are the lifeline I've been desperate for. But I never would have answered the text if I'd known that Lincoln Daniels, superstar hockey player extraordinaire, was the one sending them. He's trying to sweep me off my feet now. He says he's obsessed. He wants me wearing his number permanently. The question is he still the wrong number, or can this hockey god prove he's Mr. Right? And then there's a note. Lincoln Daniels is a morally gray anti-hero who's obsessed with the girl and would do anything to keep her. This is a darker hockey romance. That is something, ain't it? But I am with you. That really didn't need... Okay. There's another author's note, so let's read that together. Dear readers, please be aware that this is a dark romance, and as such, can and will contain possible triggering content. Elements of this story are purely fantasy and should not be taken as acceptable behavior in real life. Our love interest is possessive, obsessive, and the perfect shade of red. For all you red flag renegades out there, there's absolutely no shade of pink involved when it comes to what Lincoln Daniels will do to get his girl. Themes include ice hockey. Yeah, I got that. Oh my god. I'm sorry. Themes include ice hockey, stalking, some scenes of dubious consent, but Monroe is always a very willing participant by the end. Manipulation, somnophilia, dark obsessive themes, sexual scenes. There are no harems, cheating, or sharing involved. Lincoln Daniels only has eyes for her. Prepare to enter the world of the Dallas Knights. You've been warned. I hate that, but it is a sign of things to come for sure. Themes include ice hockey. Okay. Trigger warnings. So there were some here, yeah. But upon further digging and reading the book, I have a more thorough list for you. So everything she mentioned, plus stalking, toxic relationship, death of parent, sexual harassment, sexual content, emotional abuse, addiction, sexual assault, kidnapping, violence, grief, drug abuse, panic disorders, child abuse, child sexual abuse, and dubcon. You don't want to hear about any of that. You just scoot on out of here. The author also included a playlist shown here. 16 songs, 2 of them belong to Taylor Swift, and 1 from John Mayer. What are we doing? There's also a team roster for the Dallas Knights, so we know everyone's name and number and position. Not once did I reference it during my reading, but it's nice to have, I guess. I think it's probably common in a sports romance to have something like this. I didn't use it, but it's cute. I don't mind this. Fine, I'm fine with it. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's get into flying V formation and hit the ice. I'm gonna stop, I promise. Before we even get to the prologue, we have a fake tweet and a quote from somebody. Why is a puck called a puck? Because dirty little bastard was taken. By Martin Brodier. I don't know. I don't care. And the fake tweet from @hockeyboyfriends_anonymous. Bunnies, do we have some news for you? Nightstar forward and our personal dream BB. Lincoln Daniels is taken. #FMyLife. Last night's game, Daniels declared his everlasting love to his new girl by throwing up a heart sign after every goal he scored. #swoon. And ladies, he scored 4 times. #gasp. To drive the knife in deeper, Daniels was spotted wearing a jersey with her last name after the game. We can't find any social on this girl, but apparently her name is Monroe Bardot. I guess time will tell if our Playboy has finally been tamed. I know what I'll be wishing for. Prologue, Monroe. We open to a 10-year-old Monroe cleaning up her mother's puke off of the carpet. What a place to start a hockey romance, huh? Well, all right. Her mother's name is Roxanne, and she clearly struggles with addiction. She also has a lot of male customers that come by that Monroe sees and alludes to them paying her for something and fueling her addiction further. Again, what a weird way to start, but it's the prologue. Some groundwork's being laid. I don't know. I do, and this is pointless, but okay. A male customer comes knocking and Monroe goes to her room, turns up the radio, and tries to drown out all the noises while dreaming of, quote, the image of a healthy mother that cares more about me than she does escaping the life she created. Then, as if all of this isn't concerning enough, Monroe watches her mother die right in front of her. In her arms, actually. Isn't that great? Mama, I whisper, reaching down to touch her face, only to flinch away at how icy cold her skin is. Her eyes suddenly shoot open, causing me to jump. They're even more bloodshot than normal. Her bony hand claws at my shirt as she frantically pulls me closer to her. Her lip is bruised and bloody. That bastard must have gotten rough. Don't let him tase your heart, she slurs, incomprehensibly. Mama? I ask, worry thick in my voice. Don't let a man take your heart, she spits out. Don't let him. Her words fade away and her chest rises with one big inhale before she goes perfectly still. My note reads, well, that was extreme. Didn't need this. Didn't need it for the story. Didn't need it at all, really. Chapter 1, Monroe. She's older, though, because we've done a time skip. She's about 17, almost 18, and looking forward to running away from her foster family, who is also abusive. Can you believe? I can't. I'd been in the foster system since I was 10 years old, the day after that fateful night where I'd lost her. Everyone wanted to adopt a baby, and a baby I had not been. Okay. I'd gone through what seemed like hundreds of different homes at this point, but my current home was where I'd managed to stay the longest, unfortunately. The foster family isn't relevant enough for me to introduce all of them. Just know that the mom treats her like a maid and the dad wants to do her. I also have a biological son who, quote, is more potato than person, but he's there. The dad, though, ugh. Everything he said to me had an underlying meaning. Was an innuendo. I'm with you. I didn't need that. You didn't have to I was with you. Monroe bumps into him in the kitchen when she's starting dinner, and he's creepy. He invades her personal space and tells her that virgins are his favorite thing to collect, causing her to drop the carton of eggs that she's holding. Makes a huge mess. She scurries out of the kitchen. What was this book about again? Oh yeah, hockey. The next night, yes, of course there's more. He tries to sneak into her room in the middle of the night. If Todd got his hands on me, he would break me. And I wasn't talking about my body. I was talking about my soul. Still with you. I'm still right here beside you. So she plans to run away from this house when she turns 18 anyway, but she decides to speed up the timeline of it all because of all that. I wonder if she would have stayed in the house if he had been hot. Let's not do this. Anyway, she plans accordingly. She grabs what little money she has been able to save from her part-time job. She grabs a prepaid cell phone on her way to the bus stop and hops on a bus in the middle of the night headed for Dallas. Cheers to new beginnings. She arrives in Dallas and someone mugs her. She tries to catch them, but doesn't, so she falls asleep instead. She wakes up to find a grizzled old man named Old Bill sitting and watching her sleep. He gives her a blanket and tells her that he'll keep watch while she sleeps, and she's so touched by his kindness that she cries, and he soothes her by singing Eleanor Rigby to her and calling her little duck. There, little duck, go to sleep. I don't know why. Huh. I don't know where that voice came from. There, little duck. Go to sleep. Oh, Bill will watch out for you. I was a smarter girl than that. I really was. But I was so freaking tired, and everything inside me really wanted to trust him. After all, he'd called me little duck. Serial killers didn't have nicknames for their victims, did they? She sleeps all night, and he stays with her and watches over her. And then when she wakes up, he takes her to a homeless shelter for women. Chapter 2. Lincoln. Oh my God. The time has come, and so am I. So Lincoln's at the rink, stepping onto the ice to practice with his bros, his teammates, his buds. Thanks to the roster list, we already know all of them. We're like this. In case you were wondering, his coach is a jerk, but he's the best jam coach he's ever fucking had. And his teammates are idiots, but they're his brothers. Tight passes, Coach screamed. Sounds a little close to something else. Ari, my best friend, grinned next to me. Something I happen to have. I rolled my eyes, but we still chuckled because we're idiots like that. I don't know what that voice is. I need to workshop some of this. I don't know what this means. Tight fucking passes, and then Ari says something that he happens to have. Over-explained the innuendo line, but gave me nothing here. So, okay, great. Don't worry, though, because this isn't the last time we're going to get this playful little jocular exchange between bros. It's actually kind of all we ever get. And abuse. Bender leaned forward, one hand gripping the goal, the other holding his back. What the fuck's wrong with you, old man? Rough night, Bender sighed before leaping at me and thrusting his hips. With your mama riding me so hard she broke my back. Ari shook his head in disgust. That wasn't even a good one. Look, you're 34 years old. Now I gotta picture my mama riding you like a fucking horse. Are you shitheads done fucking around? Coach roared. They're so cool. Oh my God. For those of you who might be interested, I did a little scan of how many times certain expletives were used in this book. The F word, or some variation of it, was used 381 times total. Cock is used 51 times, dick 34, pussy 21, douche 7, cunt 3. And while cunt is in last place, best moment in the whole book, I promise you, please be patient with me because we are going to get there. Anyway, practice continues, and then Ari asks Lincoln if he's going to come out with him that night because, quote, I need to get laid. Lincoln isn't sure because he might have plans that were set up by his father, something to do with a woman named Kara, who's like a business associate's daughter. I don't know. Ari is not happy about this. I know. He's breathing down my fucking neck. Fuck your father, Link. If you try and screw her tonight, your balls are going to fall off. Come get trashed with me. Whew. I don't like what's being insinuated here about Kara and the balls falling off thing, but I can't say I'm surprised. All these books are thick with misogyny. Lincoln's 24, by the way, and a professional hockey player, so I'm not real sure how he's being controlled by his abusive father. I would have just cut ties a long time ago, but what have we learned about these books? It doesn't have to make sense. We close this chapter with a text from Lincoln's father saying, don't screw this up, boy. To which Lincoln decides he can go fuck himself because he's going out with his boys. Chapter 3, Monroe again. We're skipping ahead a year. Last we left her at the women's shelter, but she's 19 now. She's gotten her GED. She has 2 full-time jobs, one with a catering company and one at a medical office. She's like the receptionist or something. She's got her own apartment and she started community college. Understandably, this has her stretched and exhausted. Not like Lincoln will later, but every credit gets her closer to her dream, supposedly. One of her bosses, Dr. Kevin, is old and grimy and he has a comb over, but he flirts incessantly with her. She does stand up to him though. He tells her that she's just so serious. I know how to have fun just fine, but right now my priority is taking care of my responsibilities and I would need it to be really worth it for me to ignore them. Sick burn, Monroe. She's shaping up to be a pretty cool main female character. And truly, I'm not making a joke. She's doing all this stuff by herself. She got out of a really horrible situation. She pulled herself up from nothing with nothing, and she's doing the damn thing. She definitely has more going for her than some of the insufferable pals that we've encountered. She leaves work and takes us to her humble abode, studio shithole. But it's my studio shithole. We have yet another gross guy that doesn't take no for an answer. His name is Jared. He assaults her. Sure. Come on, baby, don't be like that. I'll waive a few months' rent if you spend some time with me. Ew. Let go of me. Why so hostile, little bird? I can give you everything you want. All you gotta do is play nice. I was gonna get complex at this rate. The men around me seem to think I resembled a bird. I'm glad she wrote that line because that's where I was headed anyway, but she went ahead and met me there. She's also the person who wrote into bird nicknames. Don't worry though, Monroe knows how to get out of this. I knew I had to be careful. This man held all the power, and if I wasn't cautious, he could destroy me. So I did the only thing I could. I balled up my fist and lunged forward, punching him as hard as I could in the face. He stumbled backwards, clutching his nose as blood poured down his chin. Nailed it. Towed that line like a profesh. She wholly fielded her way out of this, and I respect it. However, what it wasn't was cautious or subtle in any way. She goes into her apartment. She closes the chapter out with the question, why are men such douchebags? Chapter 4. Monroe again sinks to the floor, exhausted from her day. But what's this? A text from an unknown number? I wonder who it is. Give me a second chance, babe, and I'll blow your mind. Uh-oh. She's already had 2 encounters with balding weirdos. It's enough. Enough is enough. So she texts back. We both know your penis is barely visible in the light, let alone enough for a vagina. If this was your attempt to get a dick pic, it actually almost worked. I'll pass, I wrote back. Old wrinkled balls are not my thing. See, now I feel like you've been stalking me. How did you know being insulted turns me on? This is when my frustration for this book started to really escalate. Because why are there 2 ways that they're conveying text messages? Why does it go from bubbles to italic? I don't like it. Now, if this had been important and some expositing was required in between, fine. Pause it, go to a paragraph form, go back to bubbles. Consistent writing style is not something that Sarah Jane implements in this book, and it boils my blood. Anyway, his not funny joke has her grinning like a freaking goofball. He says, if I'd known you were going to be interesting, I probably would have shown up last night. Uh-oh, here I am frustrated again. I don't like this. We know that this is Lincoln, right? Spoiler alert if you didn't. He believes he's texting Kara, that blind date that his dad set up for him. If I'd known you were interesting. So he just assumed that she wouldn't be based on what? I don't like it. We continue to bounce back and forth between bubbles and italics and bubbles and italics. Finally, she does tell him, I think you have the wrong number, and sends him a selfie, flipping him off to prove it. He tells her she's hot. She says that she's out of his league, and then in the middle of the goddamn chapter, it switches POVs. Why? To get his whole point of view on the whole thing that just transpired. But that's what a new chapter is for in the dual POV setup. Is this something that happens? Am I just being picky? Am I being hateful for no reason? Let me know. Let me know, please, because I hate this. Anyway, Lincoln again, I guess. Same chapter, though. He's finishing up practice and heads to the locker room because he, quote, smells like old balls. Oh, yeah? Good. He takes a second to give us a weird moment in the mirror. As I walk past the mirror in the locker room, I catch a glimpse of my reflection and regret immediately floods my insides. The world thought I was everything with my golden hair and piercing amber eyes. Their words, not mine. All I could see was my brother's reflection staring back at me. We'd had the same eyes, the same hair, and yet it was only me standing here. A blonde male love interest. Check, please. I want another blah, blah, blah. I'm going to spoil it for you and save time. And I say that knowing that this video will probably end up being hella long, but I'm trying my best. Apparently, he and his brother Tyler are out practicing on a lake. Lincoln fell through the ice and Tyler saved him, but couldn't save himself and he drowned in front of him. Lincoln blames himself and his father also blames him. Tyler was everything you're not. You know, stuff like that. I don't remember how old they were, but they were like, I think Lincoln was like 10. 12, I don't know. His dad kind of snaps him out of it with a text, which also reminds him that he'd spent last night with Ari and the bros, getting blown by some random in a hallway at the bar. Sick. Standing up Kara in the process. So he sends the text that we've already experienced and once was enough, but here we are. Give me a second chance, babe, and I'll blow your mind. I huffed and set the phone down, dreading eventually meeting up with Kara. She had the personality of drying paint, and her body wasn't good enough to make up for it. She was so stuck up that I was sure she had the vagina of a frozen fish. My dick would freeze if it ever made contact. I'd expected Kara to offer meat anywhere for anything. She was desperate like that. delicious misogyny. Don't worry, there's more than enough to go around. I'll save you some. So I guess it wasn't a blind date either, because he seems to know her, right? Her personality, drawing paint, her body's not good. I don't know. I assumed it was a blind date, but when, we get to the old wrinkled balls bit and Lincoln gives us, you betcha, more misogyny. I mean, she would know that my balls were in fact perfect, considering I'd fucked some of her friends, and I know those chicks talked about everything. Explain to me your perfect ball, though. Just real quick. It's not coming through. I've only ever seen like only okay balls, because they're balls. I feel like I'm missing out. If old wrinkled balls is negative, would it be then young, crisp, smooth balls, like a polished stone hanging from you? I don't want to stay here. Moving on. We get to the part where Monroe sends the selfie, and we get to live this through Lincoln's eyes. And thank God, because I couldn't go on if not. The picture that came in then, it was life-changing. Like my DNA had been rewritten. Like my stars had rearranged themselves. I didn't believe in love at first sight. I didn't believe in love at all. But if I could have, I would have fallen in love with that girl in that picture. Sounds extreme, but okay. Her face left me breathless. Sharp, delicate features that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Long black hair cascaded down her shoulders in soft waves, framing her face in a way that had my heart racing. Her verdant eyes hit me in the gut, pools of emeralds I wanted to dive into. They were eyes I could get lost in for days on end, drawing me in with their hypnotic gaze. This girl's face was like a lightning strike of beauty and rebellion, with full lips that begged to be kissed or wrapped around my cock. I wrote this outline like a few weeks ago, and I forget. Whew. She was flipping me off in the picture. A firecracker for sure. The kind of girl that could make my blood boil with desire. She does sound pretty, but damn, dude. Also, after she sends the picture, he says this: "Please don't be Kara. I believe I already told you I wasn't her. Now good day, sir." So has he met Kara or not? I'm so confused. He carries on and storms out of the locker room to hunt down a computer so he can lurk this girl online, just to make sure she's real. Chapter 5. Now we're starting with Monroe, but you never know. She's at work the next day when the texts start in again. He starts with just sending her full name, Monroe Bordeaux. Oh, for fuck's sake, I forgot that was what her name was. Creepy. How'd you find my real name? I'm not creepy. I thought we could be friends. It's fate that I texted you. You're fucking gorgeous. Blah, 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 blah. She asks to see a picture of him since he's now seen her, and he sends random snaps of like his leg and his forehead. He's so cute. So fun. She leaves work and it's raining, so she has to wait it out for a little bit. She texts her mysterious stranger. There's more bubbles in italics and bubbles in italics, and I just hate it so much. They discuss her favorite color, and he offers to send her a cab. She says no, that she doesn't take things from strangers, and he says things like, "But we're practically best friends, and you really don't know who I am, do you?" Why would she know who he was? When have there been any clues or hints as to who this man is? She tells him as much. Like, you've sent no photos to help identify you, so how the fuck would I know that? So he decides to really lay it all out there, and he sends a picture of his 8-pack. And she goes into heat about it. I mean, whoosh. We all have our things. He decides to just grin and bear the rain and walk home. He says, "Be careful." She says, "Always am." He says, "Good girl," and she dies. The end. I set off down the street, decidedly not thinking about the fact that a perfect stranger had turned me on more than I'd ever been in my entire life with just 2 words. I get it. I have also thought on occasion that I have a praise kink too. I fear I've overshared in this moment. Yeep. Chapter 6, we have a standalone Lincoln section, also known as a chapter. It's amazing what you can find out by padding a few pockets. The private investigator I'd used a few times in the past to suss out some stalkers had now allowed me to become the stalker. Oh, that's great. Yeah, another stalker romance. I don't know how much I love a stalker romance. I'm so glad that we got another one. He flips through the dossier that he hired this man to provide on this teenage girl, and he is just obliterated by everything that he sees. He finds out that she was orphaned and in the foster care system, and he says, "I knew I should feel bad about this angel being alone for so long, but I also knew that she probably felt like an outcast, abandoned, rejected. Maybe she'd been waiting for me like I'd been waiting for her. Maybe I could get her to want me as much as I was wanting her. Try being normal. Try not being a creep. That might work, you fucking dumbass." It's giving. Maybe she's so desperate for human affection I can weasel my way in. Yep, that's what it's giving. Whatever. He's hooked now, buddy. We're in this with both feet. A second later, I was racing my Corvette down the street, breaking every traffic law as I rushed to get to her place to do, I don't know what, to see her in person, even though I wasn't sure that was a good idea. I already felt like I'd chase her to the fucking ends of the earth, but a part of me was still worried she wasn't real, that something inside me had imagined all this, because a person as broken and worthless as me, he didn't deserve the stars to align like this. He didn't deserve a goddess like her, but there was no part of me that cared. Deserving or not, she was gonna be mine. We want to give her a say in this or no? His Corvette is lime green, by the way. Why wouldn't it be? And he's sticking out like a sore thumb as he stalks her, waiting for her to come home. This place should have been condemned years ago. The front gate hung askew, and with the peeling paint and the decaying wood, the whole place looked seconds away from collapsing. There was a homeless man camped out in front of the building, for Christ's sake. God forbid. The street was pretty quiet, though, and it gave me some time to plot how I would convince my girl to leave and move in with me. Burn the place down?
Oh, we don't want to do that.
Anytime anyone is judgmental about a place that a person lives, it always just rubs me the wrong way. I feel like people are doing the best that they can with what they have. Don't be a dick about someone's home. She comes into view and boom! He's rock hard with his perfect balls and all. Monroe stops to talk to the homeless man, who I can only assume is Old Bill. Old Bill! She smiles and boom, boom! Lincoln is so hard. He might just pass away because all of his blood's in his dick now. It was ludicrous how beautiful she was. I wanted to kidnap her and lock her away so no one else could see her perfection. Oh, come on now, Link. That's crazy talk. Putting the cock in poppycock. Stop this. That's not something he'd actually do, though, right? Surely this is just something he said in the heat of the moment, right? We're not balancing on the edge of a cliff with this shit, are we? Right. I'd always considered myself a pretty reasonable guy. Ever since my brother's death, I'd done my best to not be a shithead. If I saw an old lady walking across the street, I helped her. I never gave a girl any expectations. I followed the law, except on the road. Part of my appeal was supposedly the wholesome golden boy persona I had going. But here I was, contemplating things I'd never would have considered before I saw that picture. All I could think about was devouring her, keeping her forever, dirtying her with my... Jesus Christ. Spreading it across her skin every day. I hate it when I break character. Like, they say such stupid things, and I just can't keep it together. Let's go through this point by point. Reasonable guy, huh? Helped old women cross the street. Set no expectations for women. This whole time, he's been assuming shit and talking badly about women. Also, last line there. Spreading it across her skin every day. Now, I'm no vanilla bean by any means, but what are we talking about? I mean, I know like a little sploosh to the face. I get it, but like, I'm envisioning more like a full body lotioning.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Maybe I'm the weird one. Whatever. He's late for practice, though, so he has to leave her, unfortunately. He has to cut the stalking trip short. I really fear for our sanity in this, because this is only Chapter 7. Chapter 7, Monroe. She has a meetup with a study group at a restaurant that she can't afford to eat at. Connor, a guy from her class, is the first one there, so he greets her and they sit for a little while. She's really hungry, and he offers to buy her dinner, but she's like, no, and then has flashes of her dying mother's last words, how men took so much from her mother. But she gives in, eventually, because she's not her mother just because she wants to accept a steak dinner from a guy, right? I'd have to agree, but it's still really weird. The others still haven't shown, and Connor reveals that they texted him to let him know that they had to reschedule. So, surprise, it's a date that she's been tricked into. She excuses herself to go to the restroom and boop! Text. I think I broke my back lifting today. Poor baby. Well, I got tricked into going on a date, so I might win. You're on a date? I was tricked into a date? Doesn't count. We were supposed to meet here for a study group, and weirdly, the other two didn't show up. Bubbles, italics, bubbles, italics. Ah, why don't you leave? Because I'm hungry, and he convinced me to order a steak, and that sounds so much better than the top ramen I've got waiting for me at home. Plus, I can maybe get some of the project done. I can send you a steak. She's like, oh my god, he sounds jealous. She goes back to the table. The waitress brings the food, but before she gets to eat it, the waitress comes back with to-go boxes saying that the restaurant is closing inexplicably for the rest of the night. Huh. I wonder why. They leave and decide to rain check, but Connor's not having it, so he kind of like follows her for a little bit. She calls Lincoln because she doesn't feel safe. The irony is not lost on me. He calms her down by telling her this super funny story about this one time that he had to go to the hospital for one of his injuries, and he was hopped up on pain meds, and he ended up flashing his perfect marble statue balls to all the nurses.
Well, now, what are you all looking at? Haven't you ever seen a grown nurse cry?
It was really funny. Maybe he had to be there. Yeah. She makes it home safely, locks her door. He calls her his dream girl. They say goodnight. Chapter 8. Lincoln again. Yay. He's in the locker room daydreaming because he's seen his dream girl every day since they started talking. Now, she know that? I'd been catching glimpses of her every day since I'd gotten her address, but hearing her voice, the kind of voice that broke your heart and body, had me losing my mind even fucking more. It was like an angel's, one that was dirty, with light smoke to it that gave her an innocence the lust-filled undertone would make any man desperate. It's like he's trying to speak to me, and I know that, but I can't. What is smoke? We had this back in the Haunting Adeline review, remember? If you haven't watched that one, please go. Run. Zaid said that Adeline's voice was pure smoke. Smoke does not have a sound. He also tells us that he gets that desperate men do desperate things, which is why he understood where Connor was coming from, and also why he decided to track her location and buy out the restaurant for the entire night, ending the date early to rescue her from said date. But wait, there's more. I should have stopped there, but hearing the fear in her voice when she called me, that's how her douchebag classmate ended up in the alleyway afterwards, my fist destroying his face. I'd been wearing a ski mask and I'd never spoken, so I wasn't in any danger there, but I'm sure he might have questions when she saw him in class next time sporting 2 black eyes. That's a lot to unpack. Physical violence in chapter 8 only. I feel like that's going to go well. He laces up his skates and hits the ice. And Ari asks him when they're in New York next week or whatever, if he wants to go out on the town with him. A week ago, I would have been salivating at the thought. Once upon a time, I thought it was delicious to mess with East Coast girls. They were always wildcats in bed. Sexual creatures just waiting to be unleashed under their buttoned up cardigans and pearl earrings. Cool. But real quick, I thought that he said he didn't put expectations on women. Yeah, wow. They go back and forth in their typical douchey dude way, and then we get the sentence. Time has finally come. The coach yells, "You being paid to gossip like you're at a slumber party? Cunt worms." My central nervous system shut down. I have never heard such a thing in my life. Cunt worms. The visual alone is disgusting. I have never heard that. We gotta keep going, don't we? Practice is over, and that's good because he's got a photo shoot to go to, but he doesn't want to because he would rather stalk his dream girl that he's known tangentially for 7 days. He goes, and he's grumpy, but he sends Monroe a mirror selfie thirst trap. I'm assuming that he blocked his face, but he definitely got the abs and the bulge in the shot. That's all you really need to know. One word back from Monroe. Wow. The shoot starts, and the oil girl named Natalie, love that, comes up with her me eyes and oils him up, but good, with lingering hands and accidental grazing of things. And he's really mad about this, so he grabs her by the throat. Violence against women? If she even knew who Lincoln Daniels was. I imagined her getting herself off to my photos. I was deep in thought, picturing Monroe when all of a sudden a voice cleared. Lincoln, is there something you could do about that? This publication piece isn't X-rated. From my briefs I was wearing, I quickly turned around with a curse, trying to think of puppies getting hit by cars. Hold on. God damn it. After a few minutes, I managed to get it down. Puppies. Oh my God, good grief. I'm really sorry. Silver lining though, I mean, at least we know that he's not aroused by animal death. So that goes in the pro column for sure. He finishes the shoot and then leaves, but not before Carmen pops out and gives him a Polaroid of him in his aroused state. For your new girl. So sweet. He goes home and showers, comes harder than he ever has before in his life, right down the drain. Please keep it there. This man is a criminal. Chapter 9, Monroe. Again, Monroe was zoned out thinking about that mirror selfie. I'd never seen someone so outrageously everything in my entire life. His chest was a perfect sun-kissed bronze color with tattoos everywhere, including that huge butterfly inked towards the bottom. Everything about that picture was so over the top, so gorgeous that it was dangerous. Rawr. She and old Bill are besties now. Extremely close, according to her, even though she thought he was, quote, homeless and crazy. He was still the nicest man she'd ever met, and he will continue to be the only nice man she's ever met. They chat about life. I don't know if any of this is worth mentioning, but here I go anyway. She gives him some food and offers to let him come inside out of the rain, but he doesn't. Old Bill will be just fine in his castle, which is the park that they met in. I don't know why either, but for some reason I feel like old Bill, is not homeless and crazy. I think he's just pretending, and I don't know why. I've read this book. There's nothing in it that would suggest this. It's just a feeling that I have. She goes inside past her grubby landlord, and Lincoln calls. He calls her his dream girl again, and she says, LOL, you wouldn't think that if you really knew me. And he's like, I can promise that's not true. Yeah, yeah, duh, we already know. He is stalking her and hired a PI to stalk her. So he does in fact know her. How cute is this? Chapter 10. We find him walking into Daniels International, the largest hedge fund company in the country, I think, run none other by Daddy Daniels, aka Onstad. Old rich white men have the worst names, I swear. Onstad Reginald Bartholomew III. Imagine screaming that name in bed. Unstod! Stop it! Stop it! He barges in on Evil Daddy Warbucks in the middle of fellatio with a young secretary, it looks like. Ladies' man! Now I know where Lincoln gets it. They have a feisty little chat about how Lincoln isn't gonna bang Kara just because he wants her to. He has a life! His dad's like, what life? Playing ice ball? Lol. Lincoln then confirms what I hypothesized earlier about how he makes millions of dollars playing ice ball. So again, I'm not real sure what his dad could be holding over him. It's got to be something tied in with the guilt he feels for killing his older brother, but even that seems weak. Speaking of the brother though, Unstod brings up Tyler and how Lincoln is a joke because Tyler was everything. So he's like nauseous and upset about this, which is understandable, and all of that just washes away because Monroe sent him a text. Hope you're having a good day. Immediately the nausea and dread dissipated. She was such a fucking sweetheart. I had to go to her street. I needed to catch a glimpse of her. With one glimpse of her, I knew everything would be okay. All she said was, hope you're having a good day. And other women have no doubt probably said this to him before, but he hates all women, so. Chapter 11, Monroe. I am loving how each chapter is just one POV. Love that. Hope I don't jinx it. Her other boss, Clarice, from the catering company, asks her if she's available right now to come downtown for a fancy party. Monroe agrees because, like, what choice does she have, really? She needs the money, so this should be fun. She gets to work, and her favorite flirty, but not in a gross way, coworker Caleb is there. Lincoln texts, wish you were here, in bubble form. She blushes knowing that she's falling for him. Quick recap on all this, okay? It's been about a week. They've never met officially, at least as far as Monroe is concerned, and she doesn't know who he is. She knows that he's flirty, just like everyone else in her life apparently. Now a week or so into texting a stranger, she's falling for him. Anyway, the party's starting and Monroe grabs a tray of, quote, gorgonzola pastries. Weird sounding, but delicious tasting. First the fuck all, gorgonzola is a really delicious type of cheese, and a pastry is a pastry. What about that sounds weird? What are we doing? What are you trying to say to me? This sounds delightful. What the fuck? I'm so mad about everything in this book, really, but this one really just peeved me off. I'm peeved. It's a fancy little get-together with a bunch of rich people made of money and liquor and secrets. Monroe makes a lap around the room and thinks about how it must be really nice to not have to worry where your next meal is coming from. And a strapping man approaches. Ooh, are those crab cakes? A deep voice called from behind me. I turn around, a blush hitting my cheeks at the gorgeous man in front of me. He was tall, at least 6'3", with wild black hair and piercing green eyes that lazily glanced down my body. He was wearing a very fitted tuxedo that showcased the fact that he was seriously built. A tattoo peeked out from his stiff collar. There was a spark in his eyes, almost like he recognized me, but it disappeared. Okay, now I'm wishing I had made the mistake, he muttered, his gaze catching on my face. Pardon? He shook his head, like he's shaking himself from reverie, and he reached out to grab a crab cake. Delicious, he purred after he took a bite, but I got this distinct impression that he was talking about something other than crab cakes. I'm with you again. I thought she was passing out gorgonzola pastries. Where did the crab cakes come from? Minor problem. Caleb, her flirty coworker, comes up to tell her, I'm about to have an orgasm. What, your cheese wonton's just doing it for you? Do you even know who that was you were talking to? I think he said his name was Ari. Ari Lancaster, star defenseman for Dallas. He won best defenseman every year since he started. He's the one who puts on these events. Raising money for poor kids is his thing. Oh, I murmured, my gaze darting to where he was flirting with a woman whose breasts were even bigger than her head. She resembled a shrew. Ah, so the misogyny isn't limited to Lincoln. I love that. That's good. Great even. They disperse and Monroe carries on doing her job, internally complaining about how snooty the women are and how handsy the men are. I'm gonna have a bruise from how many men have grabbed my ass tonight, but as long as things don't go too far, she's cool. She can handle it. Where is HR? Just then, screams and paparazzi flashes from the outside. I wonder why. I wonder what all the fuss is about, don't you? Lincoln Daniels has arrived, and don't you worry another second, friends. Monroe is gonna blather on endlessly about how hot he is. Holy fuck. The man standing in the entry I couldn't look away from. Tall, commanding, beautiful, a golden god that the rest of us were destined to worship. My eyes don't even know where to focus. His fitted tuxedo hugged his broad shoulders and lean frame in all the right places. But it was his golden hair and eyes that truly captured my attention, shining like rays of sunlight in a sea of darkness. Every step he took was like a symphony, commanding the attention of everyone in the room. My cheeks flushed with heat just staring at him. He was dangerous, reckless, and untamed. His presence so magnetic, people flocked to him like moths to a flame. And it wasn't only his striking good looks and the undeniable charm you could spot 50 feet away that caught you. There was something deeper there. Something raw and intangible lurking right beneath the surface. It's lunacy. I couldn't help but wonder what lay beneath the perfect face, what secrets he might be hiding, what scars he might carry. A lot. He was the kind of man who could change your life in an instant, who could make you feel alive in ways you never thought possible, but he was also the kind of man who would break your heart without even trying, leaving you shattered and alone. And as I watched him walk through the crowd, for the first time since Mama had given me that warning so long ago, I wished for the chance to have that heartbreak and head down whatever path a man like that would lead me. Just because he was hot. Mom's words out the window. Just because he's hot. I've said it before, but I'm going to say it again because it bears repeating. A blonde male love interest will never work for me. However, let's take it back. Let's throw it back to the cover, please. Show me the golden hair. Does this look like he has golden hair? I don't see it. Anyway, she's stunned by his existence, would follow him into hell, but she also just said she's falling for Lincoln. Wouldn't it be ideal if this mystery man turned out to be Lincoln? That would be really cool. I wish. Yet another sleazy, handsy douchebag slaps Monroe's ass, causing her to spill the tray of food, and her boss is mad. Pick that up, idiot! There must not be HR then. But don't worry, Golden God appears at her side to save the day. I bent down to pick up the tray, and suddenly there he was, the Golden God, Fragment City. My heart nearly jumped out of my chest. He was watching me, his gaze filled with something that resembled shock. Over what? I hadn't the slightest clue. Up close, his beauty was even more overwhelming. I'd never seen anyone so outrageously masculine in my life. It was filling the air around me. I fucked her while offering to help her pick the tray up off the floor. Clarice continues to be a twat and apologizes profusely, saying that she will be dealt with. Monroe looks up at the handsome stranger and realizes, it's her handsome stranger. Her mystery texts her, and she's immediately stressed because she's a mess and he's a perfect superstar god among men. What would he want with a girl like her? She snapped out of it again by Clarice being such a bitch. Let go of Mr. Daniels. Apparently, in her dazed state, she grabbed onto his arm. But it's cool because Lincoln just requests alone time with her, tossing a couple of $100 bills at Clarice to shut her up, which it does, and then escorting her out of the room with everyone watching them. Then, luckily, yes, I did jinx it. Lincoln, I guess, comes back for another POV. We've switched again in the middle of the chapters. Hi, don't do this. We rewind a bit because we got to get his whole experience in here. He's on his way to the gala. He's texted Monroe a couple times, and he's frustrated that she hasn't texted him back because she's working, doing her job. But he's peeved at the app that he illegally downloaded onto her phone to track her whereabouts isn't working. That's a bummer. He arrives at the gala and is met by Ari in a sea of people trying to get a pic. Why are you looking at me like that? I'm not looking at you in any way. Okay. I stared around the room. Quite the crowd you've got here. Any new addition to the list? Oh, there's a couple of unexpected additions. Oh my good golly god. I wonder who he's referring to. Lincoln goes in. Ari goes to do more things for poor children. A loud crash rings out, and Lincoln comes face to face with his dream girl for the first time. Well, the first time he isn't, like, creepily watching her from a bush or something. He bends over to help her. They lock eyes, and the world stops. She was flawless. My every desire in one perfect package. Up close, I could see she had a light scattering of freckles that peppered her nose and cheeks. Her stunning green eyes, like fresh wands of grass, were staring at me, wide-eyed and wondering. Her eyes are fresh wands of grass? You mean the color? You mean the color of... Yeah. That could have been worded better, huh? Yep. Lips are the kind of plump that other women pay thousands for, and they made his cock hard. I didn't need a POV for this. I didn't need this. Chapter 12, Monroe. She's been escorted, like, out of the ballroom or main room, whatever, and down a hallway. I can't be swept away in this. I'm just concerned. Lincoln, he cut me off with a barely there kiss, a brush of the lips, that nonetheless had me gasping. The sound seemed to spur him on, and he boldly parted my lips with his tongue, not an ounce of hesitation anywhere to be found. The air crackled around us as if the universe knew something magical was happening. I'm trying to remember my first kiss, and I can't, but maybe that's on me. I also did not have my first kiss with a hockey golden god. Mine was just a boy named Chris. Wait, oh my god, that wasn't my first kiss. I forgot that some weird boy kissed me with tongue when I was 8 years old. His name was Matthew, and he scarred me for life. I swear. Jesus Christ, it's bringing up a lot for me. I'm oversharing yet again. She goes on to detail the kiss. I refuse. She says that she's never done anything like this before, but she would let him do anything. Great. This urge definitely won't lead us astray. They make out, and she starts his leg in the hallway of this event that she's meant to be working. I know that this is supposed to be hot, but it's not. I'm not one of the public fornicators that I know exists. I do know that sex in public is a kink for some. It just isn't for me. And yet again, at work, especially with Monroe and so much hanging in the balance of these jobs that she has, like, of course, nothing's going to happen to him. Where were we? That's right. Okay, humping a leg in the hallway. She explodes. That's my fucking good girl. They just met. I get it. Stimulation station. I promise I understand, but you're at work. Paparazzi everywhere. Is this wise? Speak of the devil, Pap, swarm 'em. Barge in, swarm the whole scene. I would die for the rest of any life I had. Reincarnated as a duck, dead on arrival. I would die every single time. Monroe bolts and runs into another couple banging it out in the hallway. This is a charity for poor kids. You can't keep it in your pants till you get home to your mansions? What? Chapter 13, Monroe again. Monroe makes it home and says that this is just a momentary lapse in judgment. And that's for the best because she has no value as a woman whatsoever. I mean, Lincoln Daniels couldn't possibly want her for anything more than temporary fun, right? Then we get a little flashback. Honest to God, I did not read it. I skimmed. But the gist of the whole thing is Monroe and her mom are getting dolled up to meet a man named Carlos for dinner. Halfway through dinner, Carlos's actual wife shows up. And shortly after that night, Monroe's mother overdosed for the first time. It is not needed. None of this is needed. She's broken from this flashback memory because Lincoln Daniels is at her front door. I had to see you. I couldn't let you just disappear after. After I embarrassed myself, I whispered, wondering if the images of me pressed against him were going to be on the front page news tomorrow. I paid them all off. No one will see those pictures, he said fiercely. And even if they did, we wouldn't have anything to be ashamed of. Thanks for handling that, I guess, but skirt! I beg to differ on the shame thing. Dry hump a strange man that you just met in the hallway of a charity for children that you are meant to be working. Little shameful. Bring back shame. Bring it back. He kisses her and she's like, no, you need to leave. I don't know how you know where I live, but you've crossed some major boundaries here. And again, I'm on an uptick for Monroe. All see of her to do. Like, listen, dude, I don't know how you got here. Kind of concerned about it, but you need to go. Love this for her. Love her for this. Tell him to fuck off. Thanks. He says he hadn't intended to let her know that he knew where she lived, but desperate times, you know? He tells her that since he is who he is, the team had to run a background check on her, so that's how he knew. A half truth.